You live in the question of who will I be as I make it through the holy caca of the wildness out there. Now, I didn't mean for it to come out like that, but that's the way it rolled this evening. But who will I be when I make it through all of this stuff? Now, if you ask who will I be when I make it through, you're talking to your future. You're talking to what's unfolding. You're talking to what's about to break through. And as you begin to say, who will I be as I make it through the stuff that we're all going through as a human species and as individuals, I'm actually coming into harmony and into communion with that part of me that's being born, and I'm less and less and less focused on obstacles, hindrances, and the stuff. I'm focused now on what is it that's untouched by time and circumstance that wants to reveal itself. I start to enter into a communion with it. And as I'm entering into a communion with it, my future, which is happening right now, my vibration is being lifted. I'm no longer in the wildness and the seeming negativity of the world. I am in the feeling tone of what I am becoming. That becomes more real to me than what we seem to be facing. And now I'm in the world, but I'm of the answer. I'm of the next stage of my unfoldment, vibrationally. I'm of the next stage of my unfoldment, and I have a full awareness that I can never solve that particular issue from the previous vibration. My next level of consciousness has all the answers to what I'm moving through. Are you following what I'm saying here? And so you're asking, how can I make a difference affirmatively on the planet? That begins to unfold the destiny. Who will I be when I make it through? I'm talking to my future self that's in the nowness of this moment. Remember, our tomorrow is just more of God's today. So that divine and perfect spiritual idea already exists, but we have to engage it. We are engaging it by saying, who will I be? It begins to talk. We begin to feel it. We begin to walk in that. No longer bound by circumstance and situation, but by the feeling tone of our own becoming. We're living in that radical tension between being and becoming, accepting and self-love and appreciation as to who we are, but always on the verge of more of ourselves expressing ourselves. And then we do not allow for ourselves to fall into a false narrative about the world, about the planet, false narratives being not enough to go around, false narratives being we live in a universe of scarcity and lack and limitation and not enoughness. That false narrative and that sense of separation moves through the gamut of the human experience, and people actually live in the feeling tone that there's not enough good to go around. That is a false narrative. You have to be aware of the false narrative so you don't buy into one. There's one going around now about individuals that are taking a knee, and the false narrative is that there's some kind of way abusing the flag or something to that. It's a lie. It's a false narrative. It has nothing to do with the flag or abusing the nation. That false narrative, it has something to do the same way that John Carlos and Tommy Smith put their fist up at the Olympics to call attention to racism in America, and they made it about a flag. The same false narrative that people who do not want to have a real dialogue about some of the underlying issues in our culture will shift the narrative to flag waving rather than the underlying police brutality and hate that's fomented by the false narratives. We don't want to be caught up in a false narrative on any level. Kneeling is about calling attention to police brutality and racism. Nothing to do with hating America. We all love America and the ideal of it, you see? And we don't want to fall prey to the false narrative that breaks into your consciousness on a regular basis when you turn on the news, and there's not enough good to go around. We live in a universe of scarcity and lack and limitation, separation from good. That's a lie. You are not to fall prey to that. You are to stand in the awareness that your life is an emanation of the only life that there is, which is the life of God. You start with that narrative, that premise. My life is the life of God. Then you can prove that out of nothing at all, out of no thing, the same way that the mind of the infinite birthed the cosmos, birthed the universes, which has trillions of galaxies, and out of nothing, there's no scarcity, out of no thing but a divine idea, you will walk in the world asking, how can I make a difference so my destiny will unfold? You will ask in substance, what will I be as I move through this? You'll touch upon it, and then you'll stop and begin to realize that out of nothing at all, but an idea and the lifting of your vibration, with the awareness that expanded consciousness is the new frontier. That's the new frontier. Your expanded awareness of the presence of God is the new frontier where you are no longer held captive by doubt and worry and fear, but you're captured by a spiritual idea that speaks to you and sings to you and embraces you and loves you. And you just feel so loved. I was on my way to Agape the other day, a day before yesterday, and I was going across Pico, and this person ran this light coming right at me, and I slammed on my brakes, and when the seat belt wrapped itself around me, and I do this, even though the seat belt is going like this, I felt these arms around me. It was like, I felt like I was cocooned by so much love. And the car stopped like an inch away from my door, and I looked at the lady, and I pointed to my green light. And she was going, I was going, but I felt so loved. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna have an accident. I felt love. It was like, oh my God, I'm taken care of. I'm taken care of. I want you to know that you're surrounded by a universal presence that's taking care of you right now. That's the real narrative. That there's a presence. And as you begin to engage it by asking, how can I make an affirmative difference on this planet? As you begin to engage it by saying, what am I going to be as I grow up? What am I going to be as I grow through this? Not just how to get through it, but I'm becoming something as I'm getting through it. What is that? Let me see it. Let me be in communion with it now because it already exists. The oak tree already exists in the acorn. Let me commune with it. And then let me keep my mind clean from the false narratives that beset our minds every single day, from corporate media and conversations and fear and doubt and worry, until individuals are captured by doubt, captured by fear. They're paralyzed by worry. No. You are a dynamic spiritual being. You are not a little old nothing. You are a dynamic spiritual being that can modulate your own energy. You can lift yourself via dynamic intentionality and spiritual practice, so that you can see the wildness that's going on. The old rising up to die, new emerging, shifting sands of infinite possibility coming forward, and only be in the narrative of life always wins. Love always wins. We are an evolving species here to make a dynamic leap into a greater expressions of life. We will not be held captive by hate, the separation, doubt, worry, and fear, and we will not allow others to define our own narrative. We're standing for love and joy and peace and possibility.